Hey, welcome back. This is Mike of the Unscripted Gaming Podcast. Once again, David is joining us. Say hello, David.
Hello, everybody. We're
back. We're going to talk about some movies. You know what? We never officially christened the name of this podcast.
We didn't. You're right.
We didn't. But we decided we might keep doing it because it's fun and we get to BS about movies and stuff. So we were kicking around names and thinking, what would be a great new name for a dumb movie podcast that no one listens to? And I suggested the idea that we honor truly one of the greatest Oscar heists in history before 2017, apparently. And we, forever remind people of the tragedy that happened to the best film of 2015, being Creed.
Yes, definitely.
So, henceforth, this podcast will be known as Creed Got Robbed.
Creed Got Robbed. Welcome, everybody.
A movie podcast. Welcome to the, we're the ship is built. We're breaking bottles on our vessel to explore the wide movie-going sea aboard the SS Creed Got Robbed, people.
All aboard.
All aboard. Well, hey, speaking of things that got robbed,
let's talk about La La Land.
Let's talk about La La Land. I mean, the dust has kind of settled. We're about a week or so out, a little more. But I mean, you can't. That's kind of the weird thing about these Oscars, that it's hard to even care about what actually won, other than just because, like, holy shit, they got it wrong,
right,
and they let it happen for like 2 minutes. Like, what? That doesn't happen. Like, what?
It was some of the most cringy time I ever had watching live TV. Oh my god.
Man, that's the best part of live television these days.
The cringe.
It's just you never know when you're gonna see like the fuck up. You never know when it's gonna happen. And then when you're watching it, you're like, I'm part of history.
I witnessed history.
I was there when Twitter was lit AF about this thing everybody already forgot about. Look, it's a week later and no one even cares
exactly
anymore. But okay, so that kind of aside, like, that was crazy. I mean, everybody's done like the full like investigative, like, was there a second shooter style deep dives on it, which I think is, there are many reasons why journalism is back in 2017, and the full-fledged investigation into this happening is just another notch on that belt.
They're looking for the smoking envelope. That's all they're doing. They're just looking for the smoking envelope.
Yes. Held by Matt Damon, who is stung by bees, apparently. That's a bit of an unforgiving description that I saw. I'm like, come on now. He just works there.
Yeah.
Come on. But beside that, I thought, we overall, talking about some of the, I guess, sidebar, like, I thought Jimmy Kimmel was pretty entertaining as a host. I thought he was doing pretty well. I thought he did a good job. It's obviously long and self-important, but that's kind of what the Oscars, kind of are.
And I liked how it just kind of felt like a long episode of a Tonight Show. I don't know, and they're just kind of fun to watch. Like, I don't know, they're not super entertaining, but like they'll make you chuckle, and that's what it did. So
yeah,
I don't know.
And
A+.
I did appreciate like when they had the segments where like Javier Bardem is talking about like the 4 tenets of movies, and like some people that might be like really boring, but then it's like Javier Bardem comes out with this actress that this person that he really respects, like in this movie. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. Or like Seth Rogen with like Michael J. Fox. Like I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, so I appreciated some of that stuff. But I guess looking at the awards here, if we want to kind of take a look at those, I mean, it was kind of, we were poised for a La La Land sweep, and that was probably, I wasn't placing any bets. The smart money would have been on Moonlight if you're, looking for a big payday, but La La Land looked poised to sweep, and I thought it was interesting that it, I guess I kind of got the sense when I saw it, like, wasn't winning things like sound editing or mixing or like or costume design. That's when I was like, oh, La La Land might be in a little bit of trouble here, because usually when you have some kind of like tour de force kind of picture, it just wins. Just people just vote it down the list for everything.
Yeah.
And that wasn't happening with La La Land, which I thought it was interesting. I mean,
yeah, you think of, I'm looking here at a list, and you look at like best sound editing. Like you would think that would go to La La Land just by nature of it being a musical, but it went to Arrival, and I thought that was actually pretty accurate. I thought it was pretty appropriate. Looking back at the movie,
yeah,
I thought it was pretty accurate.
Yeah, I think it was it's definitely one of the this is gonna tell me if this sounds dumb or not. I think of the films that I enjoyed in 2016, it was the sound was very effective, and it was like, I guess there's kind of like the shock and awe of it, like it's just like these big booming sounds, like
that doesn't sound
that were used sparingly.
Yeah.
That I thought was like whoa, okay, this is like, I thought it did a good job making like the aliens seem like very, very, very strange
and just how many times the movie had overlapping dialogue across different timelines, like this editing didn't come across as confusing. It seemed like you knew what was happening. Like, oh, this is future Amy Adams talking about past Amy Adams. Like, it kind of made sense, and I think maybe that's what won him the editing award. But I don't know. Yeah, I guess La La Land didn't sweep everything like we thought it would.
Yeah, and it looked. Let's see. I guess some of the other kind of. Or some other kind of surprises that we saw. It looks like almost everything else went kind of by the books, which is kind of funny considering it. I mean, supporting actor went to Mahershala, which I thought was very well deserved.
I agree.
Viola was the big favorite for supporting actress. People really, I wasn't sure how original screenplay was going to go, but it sounds like Manchester winning that was not an upset. I think La La Land was a very well directed film and deserved the Best Director award.
Yeah.
And
oh wait, we definitely have to stop and talk about Oscar award-winning film Suicide Squad. I think I think the DC universe.
I can't wait for that to be.
The DC universe now has an Oscar under its belt. That's pretty.
So how many Oscars do the Marvel movies have? How many?
1, 2. Zero.
Zero.
I think it's 0. Yeah, I don't think they have any.
Take that, Marvel shills.
Marvel fanboys.
I know. Well, we better go talk to Stan and get our paychecks.
Yeah.
Because I mean, they're not. You can't argue with that. But it's like I was saying. People kind of like to mock that stuff. A lot of people. It takes a lot of people to make a movie, and
That's true.
If they deserve the award. So the Academy votes, then I respect the hard work of the people who made that film, but it's a bad movie.
Oh, it's a terrible movie. No excuses. No excuses for that movie.
Trademark phrase here at Creed got robbed. I thought. Let me see.
What about best animated picture? How'd you feel about that? Because Zootopia won, right?
Yes, it did, and I guess personally, I think Kubo. I did not get a chance to see the Red Turtle, but I really enjoyed Kubo. But I kind of see why Zootopia won, just because Zootopia is a really good movie.
Yeah.
It's really fun,
and
it looks great,
and it's relevant. I mean, it's
very
got
so.
a relevant story. So the Academy seems to love relevant storylines.
Yeah, it was a very entertaining and very good film, dude. It was very nice.
Yes, it was.
I think I'm really glad to see that OJ Made in America got recognized for best documentary. I mean, I don't really know what it's doing as a documentary. I mean, it's like an 8-hour movie, which is technically it's a documentary, but I think that was an incredible kind of series, which I really enjoyed.
Is that like the first streaming service only movie or TV show that's won an award like that? Has there been another one in the past? I don't think there has been.
I know that there was I guess it's kind of a sidebar, but I know that Manchester by the Sea got a lot of got a lot of play, or I guess kind of production support from Amazon.
Oh, really?
So that which is, I mean, them, even getting in for best actor, which some people weren't have their concerns with Casey, but I think people respected his performance. But I think it was interesting to see, the streaming giants like Netflix and Amazon at least kind of try and kind of start sneaking into the Oscars, especially when you have headlines, like Netflix giving Martin Scorsese just hey, make this movie with Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a Netflix movie.
That's crazy.
What it means to be like a straight to Netflix movie or a straight to Amazon Prime movie is going to be very different in the next few years, which I think is probably good for movies, because they're kind of in an arms race to get directors and give them crazy amounts of money to make whatever they want, because that drives people to the platform. So it's going to be interesting. That's one thing I'm really excited to see about the Oscars going forward, is what kind of who's gonna win the streaming service movie to get the best picture. Who's that gonna be? I think that's a really interesting kind of horse race right now.
It'll be interesting to see, yeah, what kind of stuff pops up. Any other surprises? Any other?
I don't know about big surprises, but again, I think just because of the craziness in the moment, I do feel bad for all the parties involved, but we should give some props to Moonlight. I mean, I think they really kind of, not that it wasn't understood that you can't, make a Best Picture film on a shoestring budget, but the movie had a $5 million budget, and is basically an all-time indie classic already, and I was, as much as I love La La Land, I'm super glad that Moonlight won. I think it was the most deserving film. Not to be like, oh, the Academy finally gets it right, but
yeah, I mean, I kind of agree. I mean, and people kind of tend to say that a lot, like, oh, they finally got it right. They finally picked the deserving movie. But thinking back, Mad Max was the best movie. So I think Mad Max just winning everything was completely appropriate. So in the unfortunate circumstance where Creed did not get nominated for Best Picture film, I can respect that one might make the assumption that the Mad Max was in fact the most deserving film. I can respect that. Continue. Okay. I don't even remember what I was gonna say. All I remember is Creed got robbed. That's all I remember.
CGR, baby. So I guess just kind of final, kind of closing thoughts on the Oscars. I mean, I guess looking across the categories, I don't feel like there is. I mean, I really feel like it was a really good slate of films. I'm trying to look at these. At least personally, I'm looking at some of these awards, and I don't really see one that feels kind of undeserved, or how the hell did that happen? Mm-hmm. I mean, the craziness is in the all the Best Picture announcement fiasco. But as far as when the dust settled and we're kind of looking at the list, I think I don't know if there's anybody who got blatantly robbed this year. I'm really happy to see such a tiny film that doesn't have a lot of general appeal, but I think tells a very important story like Moonlight, get the recognition and praise it deserves.
100% agree.
Awesome. Well, that's about as pretty as a bow as we can tie on that discussion. So, speaking of movies that that have shoestring budgets, David and I recently saw the sensation that's been sweeping the nation. We should talk about Get Out.
Oh,
David.
We should.
We need to talk about that movie.
We need a solid. We need time to geek out about this movie.
We need time. Okay, we try not to spoil it. We didn't really spoil much in the Oscar debate, but we are going to get into spoilers about Get Out now. So, if you haven't seen the film Get Out, you should as much as we appreciate you listening, you should probably get out this podcast, okay?
I would agree, yeah. Just get out. Just Just get out.
Get out. So just to lay the groundwork here, so this is a movie. I don't know. I think it might. Is it his directorial debut? Peele's.
Is it either that or Keanu? I don't remember.
Yeah, it's from Jordan Peele, who was of Key and Peele, the comedy duo, and it's certainly his first horror film.
Oh, for sure.
And again, just laying more groundwork. It's about Chris and his girlfriend Rose, and Chris is black, and he goes to meet his white girlfriend's parents, and it's just a crazy version of the worst nightmare of that. And I thought this movie, David, let me tell you about this movie. Like,
I'm listening. I'm listening.
Okay, so I like going. I love going to the theaters. I love going to you get in the seat. You see some trailers. Like, okay, main picture showing. Like, but most of the time, like if I wanted to go see Moonlight, I feel like that movie wasn't much better if I had when I saw it in the theater versus if I had just watched it at home. But I think Get Out is one of the most, not even talking about the film itself. I think it's one of the most fun like theater experiences I've had in a long time. Like, cause it was a Tuesday night and the place was packed. Like Tuesday night.
I will say I usually like the theater experience, but I am very, very put off by audience members who are kind of distracting. But this movie, yeah, it was packed. The people to the left of me would not stop talking through the whole thing. But like I didn't care. Like it was crazy. I loved this movie so much, and I loved the whole environment that it created. I was like, I don't care about you talking. Like, this movie is fantastic. It's too fantastic.
It felt great to just to like revel in the spectacle of this movie. With people like it's just been a while since like don't do that. Oh, and then everyone else is doing the same thing. Like I thought it was. I mean, I guess off the top of my head, like some of the best like in theater kind of like this is incredible. Like this definitely made this movie way better. Kind of experiences were like when I went to go see like the Avengers when it came out at midnight, Snakes on a Plane opening night. Those are just a couple of the ones off the top of my head. And Get Out felt a lot like seeing those movies.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, because like when people, towards the end when the police car, when the car shows up and then it turns out to be like Rod from the TSA with the airport car, everyone's just like, yes, yes, oh my god, yeah, it's so good. Like you can't not do that because this movie does such a good job at getting you invested, and it's just man, I don't even know where to start.
Okay, let's start. I got a starting point. I got a starting spot.
Okay,
Childish Gambino. Redbone at the beginning.
Yes!
Dude, okay. So
I knew there was a reason why we started this podcast. Yeah. Okay, the second you start your movie with Redbone, I'm like, okay. 100% Rotten Tomatoes right there. That's why. It's so good.
And just like, I mean, I have never had like a physical response to like a popular song being in a movie before. But when I started hearing Redbone, I was just like, I just started just grooving in my seat. I was just like, this is good. This is going to be a good movie.
Stay woke, David.
I got to stay woke, yeah.
This is like it's Stay Woke the movie. Like it was like that. That's a really good song.
It is a very good song.
I should listen to that when we're done.
That whole it is a very good song off a very good album. Everything's good about it. I love the whole thing.
That album is great. I love that album. It's great.
Okay, so what else did we like about this movie? How'd you feel about?
I think it.
Oh, go ahead.
I liked how it's crazy because like it subverts all these horror tropes while also it does that by kind of using like racial tropes like kind of in its place. So it's like our protagonist, it's just so refreshing to have like a protagonist who's really smart and doesn't fall and asks questions and is really inquisitive. It's like finally someone like asked fucking questions and is like creeped out by weird shit happening. Like finally, like it's like he's not putting on his Scooby-Doo hat or anything. I was like, you know what? This shit's weird. Like I don't think we should get out of here. And I'm like, thank you. Like it's so refreshing to see that. I
mean, it is marketed as a horror movie, but it doesn't rely on jump scares. It builds tension. I think you can count the number of jump scares like on one hand maybe. I think there's two or three. But just the tension that this movie builds and just how crazy everything gets and how insensitive everyone seems. It's just, and then it finally just collapses at the very end in just like a perfect way.
And it's like it's crazy because it starts off like, it kind of builds that tension so early on with just like, I mean, just like general discomfort, like, when he's like stopped by the police officer and he asked for his ID even though he wasn't driving, like, just in the environment we are in these days, it's impossible to not, have read stories about how that, sometimes doesn't like that sometimes people make bad judgments.
Yeah.
And like that's it, having just all of what's going on in today's world like in the back of your head while it's enjoyed, like the movie plays on all of that in really effective ways, and that's really entertaining. So it kind of takes that unsettlement and then like people asking you like, oh, what is it? Do you feel like your life is better or worse because you're African American? And just like, okay.
Yeah. And then did you like how the Japanese guy asked that too? Like
yeah, like wow. Just stuff like that. I mean, just how it so smoothly turns that just kind of like discomfort that a lot of people, experience. And then I mean, it had me like second guessing like, oh God, did I watch this one? I watched this like television show with a black person in it, and then I recommended it to someone black I know at work. Does that make you oh God, what have I done? It just opened up this whole hilarious can of worms for me. But it's crazy. The one thing this kind of goes into a point I want to make about the script, like, because it has all this like real, like very like realistic and grounded just discomfort throughout the movie. That's like, it's like, oh, I've definitely seen somebody say a permutation of what's happening right now. Like when someone says like, oh, LeBron James is so well spoken. It's like,
wow, he
like, what does that mean? What do you mean
he
by
can
that?
put sentences together.
Wow. It's like that. So when it turns out that all of that discomfort, like all that just general discomfort is actually just an elaborate kind of, when you like looking back at it, it's just an elaborate setup for this like crazy body swapping shit. Like it's nuts. Like it blows my mind. Like it's so like almost every line in the script has like a kind of double meaning, because like when they get stopped by the police and Rose is like, you don't need to look at his ID. You're like, okay, yeah, Rose, thank you. But it's actually like, oh, because then the police would have a paper trail of where this like kid disappeared from. You're like, oh no, oh no.
And speaking of and that Rose character, I love how later on in the movie she's eating what is it, like Fruit Loops or something? She's eating some kind of like multicolored cereal, and she separates it from her milk. Like just that like little subtle storytelling is just so well done.
And drinking white milk through a black straw.
Yeah.
And listening to ABBA, it's just like, oh God, oh no.
There are so many things about this movie that can comment about social stereotypes and like the state of racism today that like I don't even know like where to start like talking about them.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like when like the second, I mean, as a white dude, like I don't really, there's not a lot I can really like personally like I experienced can say on this, but I imagine if you're like a black guy, it probably gets exhausting to hear, I would have voted for Obama for a third time. I mean, I love the guy, like,
Yeah.
like that probably gets really old.
Yeah.
Like really, really old. And just that, damn, this movie is so smart.
And even, so with that racism, like, I mean, cause it's racism, what this movie is about.
Yes.
So I think it's so interesting that the white characters who are racist aren't these like backwoods hillbilly down south.
Like, yeah, nobody's wearing MAGA hats.
Yeah, like,
they're You know, there aren't no Trump flags, no pick 'em up trucks.
They're well spoken.
It's liberals.
Yeah, they're well spoken.
They're liberal. They're white, rich, liberal people.
Yeah. And I think that says a lot about what Jordan Peele kind of wanted to get across with racism. I think he kind of wanted to open people's eyes to, okay, just because a person isn't from the South doesn't mean they can't be racist. Like, this whole affectionism towards black culture, I think he's saying it's racist.
It was like a I don't know if this is a strong word, but it's like a fetishization of it. Like how the grandfather was obsessed, like he quote almost got over it, like when Jesse Owens beat him, and it's like, I could beat Jesse Owens if I just find an athletic black person and stick my brain in his body.
If only.
Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So that's one kind of crazy thing that, like, you know, when my wife and I got home after seeing the movie, we were just going through different lines in the movie and how it was like on the surface it was just like, you know, a great, like, on the face commentary about that kind of like racism that is, you know, not as obvious as, like, you know, what you traditionally comes to mind when you think about that, but how all that stuff was a setup for this this macabre thriller. It's like it's just a super duper smart script, like how it just almost every single thing has like a double on that.
Oh man.
And I also like super appreciated just how I mean, it's, you know, it's like a horror movie. Like there's some scary stuff in this movie, but I mean, just like the comic relief that that Rod brings is just this horror. It's definitely, I think why why it was such an enjoyable movie as an audience is, like, you know, we're not like terrified, like we're not because, you know, we have like Rod and other kind of moments of levity to like get everybody, like, you know, on the same wavelength. So when like the big payoffs happen and you see like he's like getting all the family, like stabs the guy with the deer hair, everyone's like, yes, yeah, like, man.
And having that character, having Rod as like the kind of comic relief character, he's basically saying the things that everyone in the audience is thinking.
Yes, he is very much the audience surrogate,
like,
and it's like
he is us watching his friend go through all this just mayhem. So I really appreciated his character. Oh man,
I will never disparage the fine folks at the TSA ever again.
Right? We don't know how hard they have it.
We don't know how hard they have it. You never know.
Oh man.
Like, I just don't even. You know, there's just so much to say about this movie. Like, I think it's. Man, this movie is just so good. Like, it's just, God, it was just such a great movie to watch. Yeah. It was just so much fun. Like,
it reminded me of, like, so I don't know. Are you a big, like, horror movie fan? Like, do you?
You know, I see the big ones, but I'm not like a connoisseur of horror.
I wouldn't consider myself like a connoisseur, but I do see a lot of them, and I tend to enjoy them. There's nothing I hate more than like a jump scare filled, just super cheesy horror movie, and this was the complete opposite. Like,
yes, definitely.
I'm thinking of, like, you know, I call them like teeny bopper horror movies where it's like, oh, jump scare, everyone be afraid of this one object. Like, I don't know if you've seen Bye Bye Man.
Like The Gallows.
Yeah, like The Gallows.
Like
yeah, like, I don't know if you saw Bye Bye Man, but it was like the most disgusting piece of dog shit that I've ever seen.
Oh,
like, I think people would agree with me. I don't think anyone really likes that movie, but it was so refreshing to see a good horror movie that was thrilling, that had humor but not a lot of jokes, and had a good payoff at the end. Like, that's all I wanted to see.
Oh, definitely. Like this, like the third act payoff is just it just feels so damn good. Like, I've never seen so many white people be so happy to see a white girl strangled. I mean, I don't know.
Well, you trailed off there a little bit at the end. I'm not sure what you.
What? Huh? What? Man, I mean, I cannot. There's just so many little details. Like, this is a movie I would love to rewatch, just because there's so many smart details packed in. I thought the acting was great.
I think yeah, I think everyone did a good job. Like and that's another good thing about this movie is the acting. It was all very appropriate. No one overacted,
mm-hmm.
no one underacted. Everyone knew their parts. Everyone knew the characters. I will say one character that I think, or I think her name's Catherine. Like I don't remember her
Mm-hmm.
last name, but Miss Armitage, the wife.
Mm-hmm.
Like some of her lines, especially around the dinner table, were like a little campy. But then again, I have to
Mm-hmm.
remind myself that that could have just been her acting because in the movie she is literally
They're
acting.
all
Yeah.
acting, yeah.
So it's hard for me to criticize on like a line by line or like a delivery by delivery basis. I kind of have to take the movie as like a whole. So
Yeah.
as a whole, I thought the acting was superb.
Yeah, trying to think, any other kind of closing notes here. I think just one of the things one kind of little note that my wife pointed out to me when that I think says like it just sums up what I love about this movie and just how much thought clearly went into what makes this movie so great is because Chris he's tied up in the chair and then he's picking at the chair, and he was able to like kind of fight off the mind resistance by taking the stuffing from the chair and putting it in his ears. And my wife is like, when we were driving home, is like, do you think it means anything that he got free by picking cotton?
Yeah.
And I had to sit there. I was like, no, 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 no. Just like, it was just that kind of like joke. I was just like, no, oh my God. Like, no, there's no way. No, no, no.
There are.
This movie is just full of that. And it's just, man, like I said, I'm not a huge horror fan. But it was just such an enjoyable movie. I mean, I would categorize it almost as like more of a thriller.
I would too.
Than like a true like horror, like a horror. Like when I think of horror, I think of like The Conjuring, like that. And this is a very different movie from The Conjuring. But man, I think it was just a super smart way to take like what is probably the personal experience of a lot of people and just turn that into this crazy thriller, horror comedy thing that was just, it's just all around. It's just such an incredible package. It was great. I had so much damn fun watching that movie. I like just talking about it. I want to go see it again, like right now. They're still showing. It's only like 8:00. I should.
Let's see. What am I doing tonight? I could probably see Get Out again.
Dude,
I did when I got home. When we got home, we saw it pretty late, and I guess we got home probably around like midnight or so. The second I got home, I was like, man, I really want to see that again. Because it is, like, the more you start to think about the movie and you think about the lines of dialogue, you're like, oh, man, oh, no, oh, that means that,
every single
piece
every single piece of dialogue, like, has a double meaning. But, like, it's crazy. Like, it's so... I know I'm not even being very descriptive at this point anymore, or helpful, but it's just, God, what a breath of fresh air. Like, man, it was just so much, like, there, again, like, kind of like I mentioned earlier, I don't know how much longer we want to go. We kind of hit our goal time.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot of movies that, seeing movies in the theater is great, but there's not a lot of movies that I think benefit from seeing it with definitely a bunch of other people. And this is a very communal movie. Grabbing a bunch of your friends and seeing it, it just sounds awesome. Like I think it's the best way to see this movie. It's just to like, you'll feel a little weird when you recommend it to your black friends. Get over it because it's worth it. It's that good of a movie, so everybody should go see it, in my book. But man,
I would definitely agree. I've been recommending it to everyone like crazy. Like even people who I know don't like horror movies or like To Be Afraid at all. I'm just like, no, just go see it. Just trust me. Just go see it.
Please go see this movie. Please, 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 please. I mean, the nice thing is this movie had like a shoestring budget, and let me take a look at my kind of box office breakdown. I know it opened to about 30, I think 30 million on an opening weekend. So it, made its budget back 6 times over in just the opening weekend, and I think it only had a 20% drop this past weekend against a real juggernaut with Logan.
Yeah.
So it was the word of mouth is going nuts on this movie, and I think if you haven't seen it yet, please go see this movie. This movie is damn good.
See it twice.
It is so good. It is so enjoyable. Go see this movie.
Go see it twice.
Well, hey, that sounds like a good place to kind of wrap up, David.
I agree.
This has been, kind of like we mentioned, another episode of Creed Got Robbed. We might put up for now, we'll probably keep this in, the podcast feed, but we might make a separate channel for that stuff coming soon, or, other kind of things. We'll let you know when there's more detail on that, but we'll probably keep this in the same feeds for now. So, yeah, I think that's I don't know when we'll have one of these back. We might have some thoughts on Logan in the future. Who knows?
I think that should be definitely the next movie that we talk about.
If you want Hell or High Water but a superhero movie, then you should go see Logan, because that's what it is. Doesn't mean it's bad. It was good. It was good. I liked it. Well, hey, I think let's wrap it up. This has been the I guess quote inaugural episode unquote of Creed Got Robbed. My name is Mike,
and I'm David.
We'll catch you later.
See ya.